Lovers Quarrel. It's a long, sustained quarrel.
What's going on, world?
Hey, everybody.
It's your guy, TJ, Mr. New Cool.
And it's your girl, Dani, your nefariously nervous Nighthawk.
Nefarious? Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Nefarious means like something along the lines of like almost like a villain, how they have like their nefarious ways, like evil ways, or like...
That's fitting. Evil. I like it. Welcome to another episode of Lovers Quarrel.
Yeah, we're here. I'm here with him again.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. If it's your second time listening, welcome back. If it's your third or more time listening, as I like to call you, you're a lover. Dani calls you something else. That's because she's not as real as I am.
That's an interesting way to put it, but okay, keep going. Anyway.
So we took a little week off because life hit you hard, and now we're back. This week's episode, we have a special guest.
Mm-hmm.
Someone very near and dear to me. Mm-hmm. It's very old.
See?
My big brother, Anthony Smalls. Do you have a monarch or something you go by?
A monarch?
Listen.
A moniker?
Moniker. There you go. That's why I stick with you.
Exactly.
Hey, everybody. My name is Anthony. Everybody calls me Smalls, so we'll go by that.
I'm going to call you what I want to call you.
Oh, my God.
So,
yeah.
Danielle?
Yes. We're going to jump right into our elevator talk.
That's crazy. You didn't even see.
What did I need to do?
You see what happens, lovers, when you take a week off, you forget how it goes. How have you been, Dani?
I've been okay. I was going to kind of talk about it in my elevator, but it's fine. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
I'm so glad.
Thanks for asking.
I'm so glad.
After I reminded you. Thank you. How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
I'm happy for you to be here. Let's go into your raggedy ass elevator.
Y'all pray for me as we get through this episode because he's on his best bullshit today. I know there's really no cap for that with you. But
are you going up or down?
A little bit of both.
All right. So you can start it off because I'm going up.
Okay. So by the time you guys hear this, it will be the first day of school for students all over the city of Baltimore and also Baltimore County. And as someone who is, even though I'm no longer in the classroom, but I still am in education, I am definitely nervous and concerned for a lot of things that are to come, because with virtual learning and the battle and the politicizing of education, and because of coronavirus, it's just a lot going on. And you know, you're trying to feel and be as prepared and as ready as you can be, but then at the same time, you just, in this situation, this is unlike anything anyone in education has dealt with from the top down, and it's definitely left a lot of room for confusion, a lot of frustration, a lot of worry. And with that being said, like, you know, I'm like trying to remain cautiously optimistic, because I just see and hear a lot of my friends, my colleagues who are in education, who are parents of students who are school age, and this definitely feels like it's going to be an uphill battle between adjusting to virtual learning, but then also to the time in which they do try to bring students and teachers back into the buildings to whatever degree, because, you know, it's not really there's just a lot of questions around whether or not is it really appropriate time to do so, or is it just because you want to get people back into school because you want to have a sense of normalcy, you want babysitters, you want the economy to pick up, all that stuff. So, you know, I'm gonna wrap this up by saying, please just show the people that are in education, be it if they are teachers, if they are work for a school district, if they are parents of students, or if they are a student themselves, just show grace to everyone involved, because it's a struggle over here. And with that, I yield. And you said you're going up, right?
Yeah. Well, you said you were going both, but I didn't get both. I just got straight negative.
Well, I said remaining cautiously optimistic, because, I mean, it's still back to school.
That was the positive.
I wasn't trying to make it a complete downer, but it's just like, you know, there's a lot of hesitation, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty right now.
I mean, definitely. I would just tell people to give themselves grace. Like you said, everyone's going through this. So it's not like it's only happening in the educational field or certain field. Like this is something that affects the world. So, give yourself grace. And as we learn our new normal, you have to, adjust. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about that though, right? Like I felt like yesterday it was March. We're in September. Like time is flying crazy.
Yes.
So, let's go up.
Going up.
Yeah. See, that I needed that. You didn't even give yourself a going down voice or nothing. You slacking. You see what happens when you take a week off, y'all? So,
my gosh.
Let's keep it positive in here, My family is in town, and that's partly why we have my brother on, but it's just always good to be around family and see your family, especially during our new normal. I haven't been in New York since February, and I used to go to New York at least once a month. I felt like sometimes more, but with this new normal, I've appreciated my family a lot more, and seeing them via in person or Zoom or whatever, I have a greater appreciation. So I'm just happy that my family's in town and I got to see them, spend time with them, and make memories. So that's all I have. And for our guests,
well, I'll say I'll go up and
Okay.
stay on the up and up. Happy to be here to visit y'all. It's always a pleasure to get out of the city. It's always a pleasure to see this countryside view. We looked at some horses down the block earlier. Last night when we pulled in, it was deer in your backyard. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So so I enjoy coming out here to get that those glimpses of nature that you don't get in the big city. But the big positive is my son started his first week of college, and I officially have a grown man on my hands, so I'm happy about that.
shout out to my nephew.
Yes. I appreciate it. I'm excited for him, our college boy, man, all that jazz.
And then my other nephew is also in college. We
Yes.
got two young black men in college who's going to be our future. So congratulations to them. And congratulations to everyone who's transitioning into college and going back to school, since we're in that season.
Don't go to any parties and wear your mask, because then they'll close your school and you won't get your tuition back.
Yeah, you
For
heard
room and
about
board.
that?
Yeah, I heard. Was it Northeastern or Northwestern? That was they.
It was one of them, but yeah, they forewarned them.
And they like, you get caught and they got sent home, and no reimbursement for room and board or tuition.
Yeah.
And then they can't even do online classes, so they have to wait till the spring to start back
I'd
up.
have been pissed. That's so perfect for the school. That's free money.
Yep. I would have been pissed if I was their parents. I would have been so mad. But that's also like, what do you expect when you're talking about 17, 18, 19-year-olds?
Blame it on the parents.
I mean, there's shared ownership there, but
If you teach your child right from wrong,
yeah.
and then they know, especially during a pandemic, and they still decide to do something, then
Oh, I mean, that definitely plays a role in it, but I think also too, like, like people that age are going to know the difference between right and wrong and still do wrong, because they're going to think that there's a invincibility
definitely I understand that,
complex.
but life is all about choices.
It is. I'm not saying that they don't deserve the consequences.
So when you
of
make
choices,
those choices, you got to live with them, the
Absolutely.
good, the bad, or the ugly.
I'm talking about placing blame solely on the shoulders of parents. Some situations that might apply. Other situations it may be like, some people are on some Mr. Me Too shit when they're in college, and your parents could have told you everything that you were supposed to do, and at home you did that.
Well, if I taught you that and you disobeyed, then that debt, you eating that. That's not coming over here.
Okay, well, I mean that's
just me.
That's a fair point, but
Now,
I'm only talking about the decision to do whatever it is to get kicked
fair.
out. That part I feel like can't fall scores. May not necessarily in every situation, if you're looking at individual students, fall squarely on the shoulders of the children. I mean, of the parents of that child.
I see your point.
Okay. Well, with that being said, we are going to jump into our tip of the week, our relationship tip of the week. Would you like to go first, my good sir?
Let me start it. All
right.
So based off of kind of what I said earlier, we're in September, and I felt like yesterday was March. My tip is based off of that, and this can be in relationships, friendships, any types of ships. Slow down. And when I say slow down to enjoy the moment, slow down to enjoy the time, slow down to enjoy your accomplishments, slow down to, just slow down. I feel like we move so fast. And again, this is based off of me. Like, I really can't believe it's September already. And I mean, again, I've seen the months happening, but I just didn't expect it to be here. Like, we're 3 months away from December. Like, 2021 is about to be right here. And it's just like the world is still moving. And I think that's the difference, because even though the pandemic slowed us down, we're still moving like it's not here. Like, work is still happening there. Like, the expectations are still there. So it's like, it's kind of hard. And sometimes we don't give ourselves that grace to just slow down and just take a moment, take a breather, and just enjoy the time that you have. So
fair enough.
That is my tip for the week.
My tip of the week is also one that can kind of apply to any relationship dynamic. It's not just of the romantic variety. And it kind of basically is encapsulated in sometimes you just can't force square pegs into round holes. And by that, I mean that in relationships, and so let me say this, there's the big, on the macro level, when you're talking about just like if two people aren't compatible, right? And you don't want to force it. But there's oftentimes in relationship dynamics, be it marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend, family relationships, and friendships, where overall you guys go together, but then there's certain like areas or topics that are sore subjects, or that are, you guys kind of have like opposing views, or something of the like. And so I just feel like sometimes we, for the sake of saying like, you don't have to be in a relationship with someone or have a relationship with someone in your family or in your friendships and always be on the same accord all the time. Like, it's okay to sometimes have opposing views or different stances on something, or different goals or desires in life. And it's not for you to force the other person to get on board with you, and vice versa. It's not okay for them to force it. Like, and then, so that's why I say, like, you don't always have to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like, sometimes that shit just doesn't mesh. And on the high end, a high level, sometimes that could be, if that's always the trend, then maybe you have to reevaluate, like, what do we share in common? But on the low end, like, there's just certain areas where you don't have to always like force it and make it work, because sometimes it's just not meant to work. It's about more like respecting the differences. So that is my relationship tip of the week.
Who had the better tip?
You both had excellent tips.
That's not the question. See, one thing I'm gonna find out with my brother is that he doesn't like to like be the bad guy. He doesn't like to tip the boat.
Rock.
Tip.
Okay.
I want to say tip.
Rock out.
You're an asshole.
I'm not. I'm really not.
Which tip would you utilize, since that would be an easier one to say? Gotta pick one.
If you're saying I have to pick one?
You have to pick one.
Probably go with the first one.
Okay, you better said that. Disown your ass.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, besides
no favoritism.
What was the first tip?
The first tip was to, I just drew a blank because he made me think like which one I gotta pick.
I rest my case. Thank you.
What was the second one?
What was this? Mine? What was it?
Yeah, what was the second one?
Yeah, you have to maybe throw a blank because I'm like, okay, I gotta pick one.
Square
I was like, the
pegs,
first one
round
sound
holes.
Slow down.
So he really doesn't have an answer either way.
So if that's the case,
then
I won.
It's not.
Y'all both had great point of views, but to go back and forth, always say who has the better point of view. These are great tips that people can use towards getting happy marriages that y'all have.
Yeah, but it's called Lovers Quarrel for a reason. This guy. Do you have any tips that you want to give our lovers?
Oh, I have an opportunity to give a tip. Okay.
Sure.
Let me say this. Check in. There's two levels of checking in. Checking in really just to see how your partner's doing, and checking in to see how you can make your relationship better. But regardless of which tool you use, make some time, some effort to check in with your partner.
I think that is an excellent tip. Thank you very much, my good sir.
All right, so it goes TJ, Anthony, Dani.
Moving right along. Before we jump into our full-on conversation with my wonderful brother-in-law, we have our Black History fact for the week. I will go first.
Okay.
And so, actually, this fact would be for today when we're recording, which is the 7th. And on September 7th, 1954, schools in Maryland and the D.C. area became integrated. So I felt like that was kind of timely with back to school, my elevator, and of course it being just a Black History fact. So while integration definitely can be argued that it moved things forward, it also created a lot of other issues because of a variety of reasons. But we can't take away from the historic moment that was integration. And DC and Maryland schools happened on this day in 54. How about you, my good sir?
So Arthur Ashe
Okay.
was the first winner, the first African-American winner of the U.S. Open.
Yes.
On September 9th, 1968.
Dope.
So Arthur Ashe was a black tennis player.
Yes, he was.
He has a stadium named after him in Queens, if I'm not mistaken.
Where the Open is usually held.
Yeah. And I would have never... I knew he was a tennis player. I didn't know he was the first, so...
Yes.
Learn something new every day.
Yes. I saw someone was just talking about Serena because I think she did like another record. Like she's got the most like women's singles wins in like the history of the sport.
Serena's the GOAT, so.
She definitely is the GOAT. So, and then somebody else, I saw this on social media, and somebody was like that they didn't like that when they describe Serena as the GOAT. Like when they describe Serena as the GOAT, they're talking about the GOAT across like as an athlete, period, cross sport. And they were saying that they were frustrated because sometimes then the conversation about like particularly like male athletes, black male athletes will come into the equation, like LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan, and that person was just saying like it gets them frustrated. Like, no, I said what I said, I meant what I said, and I mean Serena is the GOAT, period, across athletes, across sports. And then the argument was made that in part because she plays what is primarily a solo sport, and the other people that often are brought up are part of a team. So that's why it's like.
But tennis can be partners.
You can have. Well, I said primarily. But like she's won both individually and on doubles, and more so as an individual.
So what's the people are saying that she's not a GOAT, or
they're saying like when if I said
women.
Like kind of like if I said Serena is the GOAT, period, as far as athletes, sports, all together, people come back, will push back and say, well, no, what about LeBron? And the person that's...
But the GOAT means that you're the GOAT in your field, not... No one says that LeBron is the greatest of all time in all sports. He's the greatest of all time in basketball.
Well,
so Serena would be the greatest in tennis.
Some people, that's what some people say. Some people, when they say the GOAT, they mean like just as far as like an athlete, period. Like regardless of sport, like the athleticism, the talent behind it cannot be denied no matter what sport you play.
Yeah, but when you say GOAT,
this person was talking about how when she says that, she gets the pushback about, well, what about LeBron? Because even by your argument, then why would you, even if you're saying like by respective sports, why would you bring up LeBron? LeBron doesn't play tennis; he plays basketball.
That's my point.
But to her, which is also I understand it, but some people are saying like, well, what about LeBron? And so her counter to that is like, no, I said what I said.
Her?
This I saw it literally in passing on Twitter, but it was the point that she was making was that I am saying Serena Williams is the greatest athlete of all time, period, full stop. And she part of why she says that is because Serena plays a sport where she primarily has to rely on her own talent and not the talent of others to accomplish the goal.
That's hard for me because to say someone's the greatest athlete of all time, like what are the metrics that we're utilizing to say that this person is the greatest athlete?
I mean, it could be wins, it could be...
Because most time when people say GOAT is greatest of all time, and they mean that in their sport. Is she one of the greatest athletes of... Yeah, she's definitely one of the greatest athletes, but to say that she's the greatest out of all in comparison, I would have to disagree.
So if you had to say, would you? I would say this: would you refrain from saying anyone was the greatest athlete? Period.
I would never say someone's the greatest athlete. Period, because
Okay.
there's always gonna be someone better than that person. To some people, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player to ever do it. But I feel like there's other basketball players who've done more. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has done more than Michael Jordan, and they have a lot of the same accolades. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a center, and Jordan was a two guard. So I think that makes a difference. But
how does that make a difference? And I'm asking because I'm not
because at that time there weren't a lot of big men. So the fact that Kareem was able to do it, it was kind of like he had the unfair advantage. That's why some people try to discredit Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game, because they're like, not everybody was 7 feet. He wasn't doing it amongst a whole bunch of 7-footers, but that doesn't take away from the fact that you were able to do it. So that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has the most points ever in the NBA. He's the number one person with all points. He has the same amount of MVPs, the same amount of championships. He created the sky hook. So, but we don't talk about that. Now, what Michael Jordan did bring to the game was he made it cool. He like the fact that he made like the sneakers.
It was more marketable.
Yeah. He made being a basketball player sexy. That's really what it was. We never had a small guard like that who was sexy, at least in the NBA. In the ABA days, they were fly because they were like into, you know what I mean?
Trick shots and stuff.
No, well, it was like a lot of like street ballers played in the ABA. The ABA was like the black league. Kind of like, what's that movie? With Will Ferrell.
Oh, semi-pro.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like,
yeah.
They wanted to go to the ABA. The ABA was like, that was the sexy league. NBA wasn't sexy. Michael Jordan made it sexy. Now, I don't take nothing away from him, but I'm just saying, we went on a tangent there.
I know.
The greatest of all time typically means you're the greatest of all time in your what's the name?
Your lane.
Yeah, that's why people say Jay-Z is the greatest of all time, but they're not saying he's the greatest writer of all time, or he's the greatest, because there's other writers out there, like, you know, like
They're saying rapper.
Yeah.
Okay, I just was curious because I just kind of came up to, because since we were just talking about, you brought up tennis and everything else like that. So
I definitely think that she's one of the greatest tennis players, and she's definitely to me she's the greatest woman tennis player. And then if you put her up against the men, she's definitely in the top men as well. So I would say ultimately, she's one of the greatest tennis players to ever touch a field.
Court,
sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, the racket was better.
It was, but you know, that's okay.
I mean, well, you know.
That's what I'm here.
You're kind of witty with your words sometimes.
That's what I'm here for.
That's it.
Anthony?
What's up?
Do you have, I know you don't necessarily have a Black History fact, but any insights onto the GOAT talk?
Whenever somebody throws out something like GOAT, I always ask, what context are you saying it? Because a GOAT can be defined by whoever's, setting the parameters for the criteria for calling them the GOAT. So some people say LeBron's the GOAT. Some people say Jordan's the GOAT. Some people say Kareem's the GOAT. So I need to know on what context are you saying they're the GOAT, that I can now measure up what we're tallying to make them the GOAT. Not just what you deem worthy of being the GOAT, and now it's a biased conversation. Like a lot of times with the Jordan and LeBron talk, they say, LeBron got more playoff points than Jordan could ever have, this and that. And I'm like, well, that's because he loses a lot. So it goes to a lot of, one, it's 7-game series. When Jordan was playing, it was only 5 in the first few rounds. But they won.
Oh, they went from 5
times.
to 7 games.
Yeah, and they won. He was closing out series early, so he wouldn't get as many.
So he'd win in 3
because he's winning championships. Well, LeBron's losing a lot of games, but he's still accumulating stats. So is it a fair comparison, or you're just trying to use a biased stat to make your point? Which kind of makes it irrelevant if you start pulling back the layers of what context we're talking about. But in terms of Serena, she definitely is one of the, if not the best female tennis player. But she also makes
she's the best tennis player. But Go ahead.
She is in conversation, but a lot of people don't want to mix the genders for whatever reason. She gets a lot of hate and a lot of bias for that, and she doesn't make top dollar to be the best female player amongst female tennis players. So there's a lot behind that she gets backlash for.
So, who is, since we can talk about, I mean, basketball is TJ and Anthony's thing. So, who is your GOAT? I know who his is. So.
Go to and all across all sports or in basketball?
Well, we can't do it across all sports, but
no, just
this logic. But no, I'm saying for basketball, because then
because
that's your area where you're most knowledgeable.
I grew up in the Mike era. I was born in '81, so I watched basketball in the '80s. So I had to see Mike, Magic, Bird. I didn't see Kareem. I didn't see Will Chamberlain. I didn't see Bill Russell, so I can't comment. But I look at some of the throwback games and highlights, and I'm like, okay, I can see where it comes from. So growing up under Jordan and seeing where he took not just the beating along the Pistons and the Knicks and stuff like that, he really got beat up every single time he went to the paint. That's why they created what they call the Jordan rule with the Pistons. If he goes in the lane, hit him hard, put him on the ground. And he took beatings for series and series before he got strong enough to get past just the Pistons. In order to now face the Lakers and the other best of the West just to get to a championship. So when you see that transition in how hard he worked, how he transitioned from back in the days, it was all about the big man. We had centers. Now you barely got a center now that's decent. Not a lot of power forwards are becoming centers. So the game transitioned from being a big man to now being this sexy guard that can fly and defy all odds. Now it's transitioning to Steph Curry and making everybody want to shoot threes. So the game is constantly changing. So I saw Jordan change the game, win championships, but also make the whole sneaker outlet something worth having a conversation about. Now everybody has a sneaker deal, but on top of that, the money that's being made now is particularly because of that lockout that Jordan was a part of, where the players on the player union went to the coach and said, we want more basketball related income, and they laughed. The next meeting, they showed up with Jordan, Bird, and all of them. They sat in the front and said, we want more basketball income, and we're not playing. Now, everybody gets all these big deals because you got the TV deal, which is basketball-related income, sales, jersey sales, everything at the arena, everything we go to are all a part of basketball-related income. So players are getting a lot more bigger deals and money because of Michael Jordan. So that's why I say I watched it. He transcended the game. I take no credit away from LeBron James. He's doing phenomenal things, but I hate the comparison of different eras. Jordan is the great of his era, Kobe's the great of his era, and Bron is the great of this era.
Okay. And yours still remains Kobe?
For my preference, yeah.
Okay.
Kobe and LeBron, my 1A, 1-2. Yeah, my 1A, 1B.
Okay.
And again, I have nothing against Michael Jordan at all. It's just my preference. I don't take... And Michael Jordan is one of the greatest. I'll never not say that, but if you ask me my preference, I like LeBron and Kobe. That's just it.
Fair enough. Well, this was an enlightening conversation, being that I'm not necessarily the sports, buff on this podcast. So now that you're here, Anthony, you guys can have that was a very thoughtful response to that type of question. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Stop screwing up your face. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break, and then we will come back. Oh.
Yep. That's what happens when you take a week off. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did you stumble upon a word that you want to try and stump me with?
I have a word.
Okay. It's now time for our word of the week, where TJ tries to
Dani tried to
make me feel stupid.
When you take a week off, sometimes you just forget because you're not in routine anymore. So sometimes you just forget how things.
Is that all you're gonna say the entire episode?
I might. I don't know.
You are something else.
So my word, I gotta make sure I pronounce it. Magnanimous. Did I pronounce it right?
You did.
Okay. Magnanimous. A magnanimous person has a generous spirit. TJ.
Magnanimous is not necessarily a word I would use to describe you on all the time.
So it says letting your wife have the last of the cookies, even though you hadn't eaten since breakfast, would be considered a magnanimous act. Magnanimous. Dani probably knows it because she's too confident.
No, because
she's way too confident
because
for me.
There's a little tricky in the middle, possibly.
You got it, kid.
Okay, magnanimous.
Mag like MAGA.
Shut up. Magnanimous. All right. MAGNANIMOUS. Magnan. This is where I'm a little worried. IMOUS.
Wrong.
Damn.
Now you got it right.
Oh, shut you! Why are you such a hater? Why can't you just like let me?
You didn't seem confident in yourself.
Because it was. I was like, was it an I or an A? Magnanimous. Yes.
She stumped me again, y'all. Shout out to her.
Thank you. That's one thing I can do.
Now you can go to break because. Do you remember who our sponsor was?
You know what? I can just let you and your brother talk for the rest of the episode, and then I'll go over and go lay down with Tatum. How about that?
I'm just asking a question.
That would be magnanimous of her.
Exactly.
I don't think that would be the right way to say it, but okay.
It could be boy talk. That's it.
I don't think that's the right,
It could be brothers,
the right definition.
Brothers quarrel instead of lovers quarrel.
No, we need you.
All right. So now we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, Gaines Sports Gear.
She remembers y'all.
We will be right back, maybe with TJ.
Hey friend, it's time for you to ditch those workout gloves and get the grip and wrist support you deserve. What do you suggest? You need to get the Gaines Load and Lock grips by Gaines Sports Gear. They are more durable than gloves, have a non-slip grip pad that provides grip support and added wrist support unlike your traditional workout gloves, and will protect your hands from calluses. Do they come in different colors? Not only do they come in different colors, but they are available for men and women. Do yourself a favor, go to GainSportsGear.com. And remember, a better grip equals a better lift. Embrace the process.
And you too can embrace the process by using our code LOVERS10 at Gaines, GAINZ sportsgear.com. And now, back to the show.
And we are back. And now we are going to have a conversation rooted in divorces, which is something that we don't always talk about on here, but and I guess I should say this: divorce and or monies, quote unquote, owed to another party when you're talking about the dissolution of a relationship, right, or child support. So, in the news recently, there's a couple of ones floating around, right? So you've got Eliza Reign, who is one of Future's many baby mothers.
You just wanted to say many.
I mean, where there is smoke, there is fire.
Go ahead, love.
How many baby mothers does he have?
No one knows, really.
How many mixtapes he had?
What was that one he had with the DJ that was locked in jail for
56 nights?
Somewhere around there. So, then you have Dr. Dre and his soon-to-be ex-wife and her spousal support request. So you have Eliza Reign and her child support request. I can't remember Dr. Dre's wife's name, and her spousal support request. And then also, which I thought about too, was Cam Newton's soon-to-be ex-wife and her request, because they were very different takes on all three. Eliza Reign, which apparently, well, at least by her claim, is that like she never asked for that $53,000 a month. She said that was not true, but ultimately ended up getting somewhere closer to like $3,300 a month for their daughter. And then you have Cam Newton's wife. They have 4 children together, and she's asking for $15,000 a month in child support. And then you have, for spousal support, you have Dr. Dre's wife, who was asking for upwards of $2 million a month in spousal support. Now, 3 really different, there's overlap, but there's also 3 different amounts, different people, different dynamics as far as kids and everything else. So when we're thinking about this, right, and, you know, relationships don't always work out, but when the financial part comes into play, when you have to start getting stuff on paper, if it comes to that, then what do we consider reasonable and what do we consider to be just completely outlandish?
So, let me go before my brother goes, because he's on he got a whole book about it. So like Eliza, the $53,000, I think that's ridiculous. I don't care who you are. $53,000 a month for child support doesn't make sense to me, unless your child is like going to the top school, I guess. I don't know. I would never understand how someone could spend $53,000 a month on something. So that's.
I mean, I guess the only thing I could think of is if there is like, although which makes me wonder because their child together is still relatively young. Like I don't even think that she's school age yet. But you know, if you're going to like a very like high up private school, like people could pay $70,000 or $100,000 for a year. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you're saying you want $53,000, which in 2 months is $106,000, and your schooling costs $70,000 for the year, that means you have $36,000 left, if my math is correct, and I think it is. Now, what is the rest of the money going to? So
that's a good question. So then my question becomes also, what is the what's the criteria? Like, because for me, I'm thinking I think with children, it's a little easier to kind of make the argument for, which is your children should live a lifestyle. Now, I'm not saying that amount of money is reasonable per se, but your children should have the lifestyle of the parents that had them, right? So that means, because the money should, if we're talking about child support, the money should go to the children and keeping them up to.
They should have the lifestyle that they lived in, but in Future's case, he ain't never lived with the woman. So how does she get? How does this baby get a lifestyle?
Shouldn't she have the lifestyle of the parent that is arguably the breadwinner?
She should have the lifestyle that,
she
should have the lifestyle that's going to help her live her life comfortably, not live better. It's not a come up.
So if you and I divorced, and let's say I got,
I'm coming after you. You got the money. You the breadwinner.
So shouldn't Tatum's lifestyle mirror that of my own?
Yeah, but again, we're married. We're talking about.
Or two people that were never in a relationship.
I'm saying that
basically,
if all we were doing was fucking, you get pregnant, I am this millionaire, and you're just this regular chick, or you have 1 million followers, so that's how you get your breadwinner. I don't really know who Eliza is, so, but the child should be taken care of, but it's not a meal ticket, and that's my biggest issue.
I agree with it not being a meal ticket.
Just because the father's a millionaire doesn't mean that you are now a millionaire.
But your child should live a lifestyle in alignment with.
So then the child should live with the parent who can afford them.
And what if he says, no, I don't want to take them?
If he says, no, I don't want to take them.
Which I would be hard pressed to say. Because I don't think Future has any of his children.
If he said, no, I don't want to take them, then that might be where I would say, all right.
And I would dare I say with this particular union, or I should say consummation of a making of a baby, he was denying the paternity of the kid. So I damn sure don't think that he wants the kid.
Okay, well, whatever the case may be, that's something that he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life, because it's going to be in the media and everything else. All I'm saying is that child support, marriage support, anytime you get support, it should not be a come up. And I feel like that's what people utilize it as a come up.
And then my question then becomes to, when it comes to things like spousal support. So, okay, and with spousal support, right? So like for me with the whole Dr. Dre thing, right? She's asking for $2 million a month, which is
ridiculous.
Definitely
Let's talk about
an amount that I have never heard of.
No. Well, look, she actually asked for 1.9 million. They rounded it up because anything over 5, you round up like your age. But laundry and cleaning is $10,000 a month. What laundry costs $10,000 a month?
Well, read how much she spends on clothes a month. One would explain the other.
Clothes, $135,000 a month.
You have to be have the expensive things to be Dr. Dre's wife.
You don't.
So here's my thing though, right? So
this isn't a come up.
People ask for, arguably, right? The sentiment is that I'm asking for some spousal support to keep me in the lifestyle that we built for ourselves as a couple, right? Even if the money is primarily coming in through him, but like you tell me not to work, or I'm responsible for upkeeping the household while you do the work. So
if I told you not to work, that's different.
My bigger issue is, why are they spending this much money, period, together or not, for her to even ask for that amount of money? Because that's just a very large sum of money. But again, we don't know what the breakdowns are of that. But to us, it's always going to sound like,
we got the breakdown.
But the breakdown of the breakdown. I'm sorry.
She spends more money on clothes than she does on her mortgage. She spends more money on her clothes than she does education, which is tuition and living expenses, and telephone, cell phone, email. First off, she spends $20,000 a month on telephone, cell phone, and email.
I mean, honestly,
it just sounds like, reading this list, it just seems like her lawyer was like, ask for everything. We're just putting. I didn't even know that emails and cell phones cost $20,000 a month. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought Gmail was free.
You thought Gmail was free?
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's some type of encryption. I don't know. But I'm reading an article and it says
charitable contributions, $125,000 a month. Why do I have to pay for your charitable contributions?
Mm-hmm. But you
don't see nothing wrong with this.
No, what I'm saying though is that, what if they? And this is just playing devil's advocate. But what if they were? That was something where, because the thing about it though is that
you
oftentimes
were able to do that when we were married. That was something that we did. We're not married no more. I shouldn't have to pay for your. I have to give you $125,000 a month for you to donate. Mm-hmm. And you don't see nothing wrong with that.
No, what I'm saying is that I'm not saying I don't see anything wrong with it. I think that the sum is a very large, like, exorbitant amount of money. But what
and they probably do that because of write-offs.
But and what I'm wondering is if it's the thing of like, these were all the things that I did either because it was the understanding between us. This is how much money I spent. It was never an issue before. And then because I'm running your household, I'm making sure all these other P's and Q's are done. So I'm not
saying that your spouse, your ex-spouse, shouldn't be.
So do you believe in spousal support? Period. Let me ask you that.
How long the spousal support goes?
I guess it depends on the agreement. On like, I don't know.
I don't think I should have to fund your life. Now, if I told you, babe, listen, you don't got to work no more. Mm-hmm. You don't got to do nothing. All I need you to do is take care of the house and stuff like that. Then yes, I should fund you with enough funds that should sustain you for some time. Mm-hmm. I think that it's fair because I stopped you from getting your bag. So if I don't know how long they've been married, but if she hasn't worked in 20 years.
Since 96.
So 24 years?
Mm-hmm.
So if she hasn't worked in 24 years, then yes, she should get some money. Here go a couple of million. Because it's him. It's Dr. Dre. They have it. But you're asking for $2 million a month. And that's... like I said, my biggest issue is I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve something. Mm-hmm. But when I see this... And maybe it's just from my broke lens. Forgive me.
I mean, no, that made my heart...
$900,000 a month on entertainment? What the fuck is entertainment?
I don't know. Well...
Is that, like, is entertainment private jets and stuff?
Possibly. I don't know.
Honestly, it just seems like she's just throwing whatever against the wall and seeing what's going to stick. Let me throw everything.
Well, his argument is that they had a prenup, but that he ripped up the prenup, and that's why she was like, "There's no document."
I get that.
So then, what about Cam Newton and his wife? $15,000 a month, 4 kids.
That's all she asking for.
That's what they're saying.
And he don't want to give her that.
That they have not.
Because
they have not confirmed or denied.
If that's all that she's asking for, I'd be like, "Here goes 20." Because there's other women out there that's asking for $2 million
per month.
If she's only asking for 15, Nicole Young's telephone, cell phone, and email is $20,000 a month, and that's my point. Like, you're just asking for this as much as you can get, and our system is going to allow her to bleed him. Based off of how they prove it.
They may not allow for that. I mean, she's gonna get something because.
No, I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve anything, but I always say when you put money into the picture, things get ugly. Mm-hmm. When someone's dying and people think that they deserve their property or money or stuff, people get nasty and ugly over it. And that's really why I try not to be super sentimental over frivolous things. Like, they come and they go. Mm-hmm. Because that's literally what it is. But the fact that you are entitled and you feel like $2 million a month is crazy.
I definitely think that it's an extreme sum of money. I think for me, at its core, like if you're married for 24 years and I haven't worked, or my work has been raising
$24 million a year.
I get that. And raising your children and holding down the household so you can do all these things, then I can see the argument for spousal support. I don't think that amount of money is reasonable, but I do think that there's like a space for these things. When Eliza reign in future, she said she never even asked for $53,000 a month. But even if
so, how much does she want? Because Future wanted to give her $1,000 supposedly. Again, this is all alleged, but we're talking about it because we're talking about, it's not necessarily, and I want to make sure that's why I'm prefacing. We're not talking about these individuals as much. Like, we're not gossiping about the individual. We're talking about the financial burden that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. $1,000 a month in your Future is definitely like.
Are you saying that because he's Future?
I'm saying yes, in part, yeah.
Okay.
If he couldn't.
The judge ordered $3,200, and they're fighting that because they're saying that's not enough.
I mean, that's such, to me, like, 1,000 is kind of like a slap in the face if you're Future.
Honestly,
3,200 might be more reasonable.
The way I feel about it is,
but then again, he's probably got to divide that across 11,000.
Divide what?
Children, like, I mean, his income.
So
well,
when you have kids, or you choose to have kids, it shouldn't be on your mind if this is a come up. It shouldn't be on your mind that I'm having this celebrity's baby, so I'm taken care of for at least the next 18 years of my life.
Okay. Do you think that that's what she did?
I think that's what a lot of women do. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of women.
But then does that. So I guess I pose the question: who's the fool in that situation? Because there's really only one way to get a baby.
Both.
Okay.
It takes two to tango.
Okay.
100%.
You reap what you sow.
Yeah, I'm not feeling bad for Future.
Okay.
I'm just saying, you're asking for this amount of money. This is a lot of money. We're talking about money that some people will never see in their lifetime. Mm-hmm. We're talking about money that $2 million a month would change an entire family's life. We're not talking about an individual. Mm-hmm. It will change an entire family.
Change generation.
Community.
I get it.
And we're fighting over it. And my thing is now, what if she gets that $2 million a month, $24 million a year? What are you going to do with that?
Maybe she put it away. I don't know.
That's just my thing.
Spend $900,000 on entertainment.
I think everyone deserves whatever blood, sweat, and tears that they put into it. I wish that people could be like adults about it and really have those real conversations and be able to, not have to squabble over it. But like I said, when I seen that list and I'm like, $2 million, you're asking for $2 million a month, 20,000 on email? I can't believe that her lawyer didn't be like, no, we're not going to put that. Like, no, there's no way I'm going to allow you to put telephone, cell phone, email.
Yeah, that's why I said I want to see the breakdown of the breakdown, because I just want to know, like, I want to see like a line item of like how, because I think that's the thing too. It's like it doesn't make sense to us because we're like, there's not that many cell phones bills in the world that would cost this much money. But I'm like, is it like there's not even that much internet or so that part I can definitely understand why it's so confusing. But we've been doing a lot of talking. Let's pass the mic and give the floor to our guest and allow for him to chime in on his thoughts.
Y'all said a lot.
Yeah, sorry.
It speaks on the structure of the society that we live in. A lot of people go into marriages not understanding that marriage is a business, the number one thing you sign in this one piece of paper to get married is a marriage license. It's a license, a verbal agreement, now going into written law that we are now two entities coming together. Mm-hmm. When you go back to history on the purpose of marriage, marriage wasn't for people that were poor or less fortunate. It was for royalty, rich, to keep their bloodlines and their wealth amongst themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's why there were arranged marriages. But people mimic what they see and what they want to be a part of, which is now become society. In America, in this country, it is a business. And when you sign these papers, you should know, one, what you're getting into, because regardless if you have money, property, or anything invested into the relationship, as you grow, it now becomes a liability when you part ways. I think that it's reasonable for, in divorce, there should be something that you can just sign off and split ways. But I don't agree with a monthly bill to maintain your life and your career. If I can't give you a lump sum of money, like winning the lottery, and you can't sustain a lifestyle on your own, then that says something about you. $2 million a month is a hard reach. But in future situation where you constantly keep having kids over and over again, like, I can't justify
them not taking you.
Yeah, I can't. But Dr. Dre's situation is different from Future's.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about marriage versus child support.
Yes, I agree.
I frown on child support a lot. You know, you'll get a lot of backlash. Child support is something you can't talk about, like religion or politics. You bring that up and it divides the room immediately. The people on child support don't always necessarily deserve to be on child support. Mm-hmm. But it has become a societal norm that a failed relationship now equates to automatic child support.
Sometimes, yes.
Because they don't do it case by case. All you have to do is go down. You don't even have to have the person's actual social security. You just have a name, you give them the address, and they automatically start giving you funds for this child while they search for the father. Now, if he gets arrested or goes to, update his license and they pull him or something like that, then he has to come in and say, why didn't you report to this? Mm-hmm. By not showing up, she could have gave a false address, she could have gave a false name, but by not showing up, you are now tied to the child support, sometimes until you're proved to not being a father. Mm-hmm. And even in some cases, when you actually prove that the DNA doesn't match, the judge can still say, pay it until the child turns 18. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of laws here that purposely mess up the household, because men, as we're still somehow harping back to the family structure where men are supposed to be head of the household. Mm-hmm. But that was from something way back in the days when women didn't work. Women work now, so you shouldn't still have that same structure or that same expectation. Mm-hmm. But because men are head of households, society normally attacks the men because they're supposed to lead. So we can break down the foundation of family, togetherness, and everything if we take and eliminate the men from this situation. Mm-hmm. There's a great book that breaks this down. Men on Strike by Helen Smith. Her book basically talks about why today's marriage and having kids are no longer a good investment in society. And she talks about all of these different aspects of where it's not about the family no more. It's literally about how can we take the resources out of these neighborhoods, out of these communities, to make sure everybody continues to work, but nobody builds wealth. Because the fastest way to wealth is putting stuff together.
Well, you fully it's communal, and it's investing and things like that. I definitely can understand that part. I guess, like, I do agree with you that definitely, like, the conversations around, like, child support, spousal support can be very divided, can divide folks very clearly, because depending on the experience that you've had, it can really it can change your lens on it. So, like, I've seen, or I know people who have had it where they were a part of a conversation or in the on the receiving end of child support that didn't have to be imposed upon them, and then other people who damn sure should have probably been put, like, quote unquote, put on papers and stuff like that because of their inconsistency with showing up, like, being present and doing all those things, and also, like, and the financial ramifications. So it's like, I think that there is, like, for me, my thought process is, like, spousal support and child support, like, there's a need for it, but it's absolutely in many cases abused. Yeah.
Like,
so,
it's different if you're doing it because the child father isn't there or whatever, but it shouldn't be looked at as,
or the child's mother.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but if a man put a woman on child support, they would get crucified.
Yeah,
what kind of man are you to put a woman on child support? And
if she's a deadbeat, then I have no issue with it.
You might not, but the majority of women would have a problem with it. They would say that a man is not being a man because any man that would take money from a woman isn't a man.
I think that there's some people
that double standard always hits.
I think that there's some people out there who would feel that way, but again, I'm going to speaking for myself is that if you are a parent who is not present, or if you are a spouse who created a lifestyle for you and your partner, and now you're trying to just have that person and just trying to walk away and leave that person with nothing when they either helped contribute to it or you stop them from doing the things that they could have done to establish themselves, because financial abuse is a very real thing as well, then those are to me like those situations where like I don't see an issue with spousal support stuff. Now, does it get abused? Absolutely. $2 million a month, an astronomical amount of money, fucking yes. But it's also like it's kind of thing of like I think it brings back to sometimes the thing about like sometimes you have to think about like the reasons why people get together, or the reasons like it's like TJ said, like it's about choices, right? It's about the decisions you made that brought you to this point. And now some things are out of your control, and some people are vindictive, and some people are going to try and just use, like TJ said, like a come up. But there are also people who are walking around here who are not getting nearly as much as they should because people are, not are doing, on the other side of it, working to make sure that they get as little out of them as possible, right? Like, I'm going to not give up. There's some people that we know, like, that said that they won't work, right? So that way you can stay on spousal support, or they won't remarry because alimony ends upon you remarrying someone else. That's been like a stipulation in some divorce settlements or whatever. And there's some people who like they could find the love of their life, and the next person be like, we never going to tie a knot because I want to make sure I get this money. That's abusive. That's That's definitely abusive. But I just think that there are arguments that could be made for all sides of these equations.
No, definitely. Well, listen, we're just having the conversation about it, and I just, more than anything, I hope people understand that, before you start procreating and getting married and stuff like that, that you do it for the right reasons, and that you are really doing it for the long haul. Like, having children is a lifelong commitment. Like, even when they're adults, they're still your commitment.
Yeah,
it's not one of those things that, you're 18 now, I don't have to worry about you no more. Like, that's forever. And I mean, marriage is supposed to be forever too. So, make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. Make sure that you're thinking about that, you know what I mean? And then that way you kind of figure it out. Now, granted, things don't work out. And hopefully people can be mature enough to have those conversations and be able to do, their divorce easy and their child support easy. Like, child support to me should be like a last resort thing. It shouldn't be like, I'm hurt, so I want to hurt you.
Or it could. I should say this. I think it should be a last resort or a first resort, because sometimes people know themselves well enough to know we are not going to be able to come to an understanding or an agreement on what's going to be enough or fair, equitable. So let's put it in the hands of somebody else. So I feel like it should be kind of like one or the other, right? It's going to be like we've exhausted all our options, and now we can't come to an agreement. This is where we are, or we know ourselves well enough to know that we're not going to be able to get this squared away. So now let's just bring in someone who is impartial and have them just decide. But I think for every version, we can come up with a version of this for every setup, and it's definitely not something that's cut and dry, and that can change your opinion.
No one needs $2 million a month though.
Somebody said, this is what somebody said though. Somebody said, hear me out. They tweeted in response to the breakdown, right, that TMZ posted, and it said, by law, when you marry a person and change their lifestyle, they can't go back to life before. So if these expenses was what Dr. Dre was spending, then guess what? He needs to run her that $2 million.
But I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. We live this lifestyle together. We're not together no more. I shouldn't have to fund your lifestyle to continue just because you experienced it.
Okay.
I got a question. So let's say he made $1 billion and he lost all the money. Mm-hmm. Should she be entitled to leave because now she's not? Because a lot of times people leave when stuff like that happens. Mm-hmm. Does she have the right to leave, or should she stay and weather the storm?
I mean, that's for her. I don't know.
No, I'm just going based off of what they're saying.
Oh, what they're saying?
Like, it's ridiculous to say that
The world would say it's
when
okay
it goes
for her
bad,
to leave.
you can leave, but when it goes good or when I really need you, you can't stay and see me through.
I think it really it depends. I mean, I think by the argument's sake, I think under the way we look at marriage is like for better for worse, right? So when you're down and out, I'm supposed to be there with you. When you're successful, I'm supposed to be there for you and help and reap the benefits. So I would say, yeah, like if he were to have a bad deal and he lost a chunk of money or whatever, then yes, you should like see it through. But I also think that if like, and then it becomes a thing of like questions around like how did this money get hypothetically lost? Was it just like a business deal that, you know, went wrong and that just things happen, or was it like you are frivolously spending money, or you're not being financially savvy or whatever, or you're letting someone else take over your finances and now we're like in the poorhouse, stuff like that. So I guess that question becomes, so it becomes, I think sometimes it's like not only what has happened, but how did it happen? Like what role did that person play in there? Because like sometimes you do want to see through the storm, but other times I feel like if a person is like self-sabotaging or is like going down in flames, you don't have to necessarily be responsible for, like, you try to help them out, but if they're not willing to help themselves, then I can also see people, men and women, deciding to like, you know, throw in a towel at the same time. Because you can't, like, if we invest in stocks and those stocks go belly up because the market had a bad day and we're left to square one or whatever, like we went into that together. But it's like if TJ went and like took all the money in our savings and bought something that was ended up, you know, being this like horrible investment, whatever, without me knowing or without consulting me or whatever, and now we're left destitute, like I reserve the right to be like, no, I don't want to stick around for that. I feel like it's, you know, because it really does depend.
That's justifiable.
If, you know, it's like those are the things that you got to start asking yourself. Now, to your point though, like to your situation, no, I think people should try to like work it out and see it through. But it also, you know, unfortunately, even in marriages, even in relationships, people keep secrets and people do a lot of shady shit when they, you know, and, you know, like, so there was another thing, and I'm sorry, I don't want to go on a tangent, but before I forget, there was another thing I was reading about, you know, Reddit. Mm-hmm. So they have AITA, which is like, am I the asshole? And so the scenario that was going around the social media realm was that a husband was upset with his wife that when he found out that she had her own like account, like secret bank account where she would like put money in and save money.
Oh, I heard
you heard about that one, right? So
I didn't hear about it.
Okay, so a woman, I can't remember who wrote it, the woman or the man, but whatever it was, the scenario was that like the husband found out that the wife had a account of money separate from their shared account, where she would, you know, throw money in there whenever she had a chance and save that up. And when asked why, she said, because in the event that something goes wrong, I want to make sure that I'm not stuck and I can go there. And he felt like that was secretive and that was manipulative, and like almost like he's not sure if he even still wants to be with her as a result of this like revelation. But you
left out something.
Oh, what did I leave out?
I think he was saying like, well, why didn't you tell me that that's what you were doing? Because you told me we were putting our money in this joint account, and I've been doing that. I could have been saving up money too for a rainy day. And she was like, well, you can always open up an account.
She did say that.
And he said, okay, so for the amount of times you've been doing it, I'm going to now start putting my money there and not in the joint account. And she got mad at him.
But I think he was saying like, but I think the way I think it was framed though was like, it was very like, it was kind of vindictive. It was like, I'm mad at you, so now, you, like, she was contributing to the joint account and she was putting money to the side. And so when he said that, she was like, well, you're free to open up a separate account as well and contribute to that one. And he's like, well, yeah, but now what I'm going to do is you've had this account for 4 years, so now I'm going to contribute 4 times the amount every paycheck to my account, and then whatever's left I'll put in the joint one or whatever. So it was like a little bit vindictive, and then he, you know, it was questioning the whole relationship. So like, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that even? Because that's the thing too, is like a lot of women are taught that because you don't want to left, you know, ass out if your man decides to up and leave. Like that's definitely something that a lot of women are. That's in. You
got some money on the side I don't know about.
I don't have money on the side that you don't know about. I have money on the side, but you know about it.
All right, that's how I just gotta ask.
But we don't have any joint accounts anyway.
It really depends on the conversations that you have, because if you're in a marriage and you have a whole savings account as we're paying bills and trying to build a future together, and I have no idea that you're doing this, and it would be beneficial for me to do the same thing too, why wouldn't you financially advise me to do that? Why wouldn't you have the conversation with me? So, it's something that I would have an issue with.
I think it could be fair to be like, see, I think honestly with that Reddit situation, it was like that guy wasn't a good guy to begin with, because I think that there are definitely relationships where people were like, yeah, I have my own account, you have your own account, and we may have something together. Mm-hmm. And we all know about it, but you may not know how much money I have in there, but you know I do. You know it exists. I'll say that. So I think like with that though, is that part you like could be fair too, but then I think in that particular situation, she probably didn't say anything because the exact reason why she was saving is the exact, which is what is going to like play out, which is like he's going to leave, or he's being vindictive, or now he's going to make sure he's going to have the joint account that does the bills and stuff suffering because he's in his feelings about whatever. And so I think maybe somewhere like in her subconscious, it was like she saw it coming, which is why she squirreled it away. Because like if I tell you about it, then you're going to be like, well, oh, because people do this, right? Where like if I know you have 50 grand stashed away or whatever, even though me and you have a shared account, I might take a little bit more than my fair share out of it, because I'm like, he could put that $500 back. He could put that $1,000 back. Like it might start in small increments, but it could be that, or it's like I can get access to that, and then I take it or whatever. So because the hiding money under the mattress and tin cans and stuff, that comes from financial abuse that a lot of women suffered
when women weren't working.
When women weren't working, or were working jobs where they were not being paid nearly as much, which also still happens.
So this is a whole new day. But once you open up that can of worms of not telling a secret, then it already puts the relationship, the communication, all on a falling foundation. Because now because it questions the trust, it questions the honesty, it questions the openness. Everything now is on a foundation to crumble.
I think but then could somebody else pose the question, couldn't he have said like, damn, I'm sorry that like you felt like you had to do that too? Because like there's different ways to look at it. Like you can be offended and you can be hurt and you can feel like the trust is violated. You could also look at it as like, damn, there's like a generational thread that got passed on to you that tells you like, even the best of men can sometimes leave, or people, we can say, we won't necessarily just put it on the guys, but
thank you.
But even in the best of scenarios with a partner, they could still leave you high and dry.
No, I mean, I think that definitely can happen, but I do think that you got to have that conversation. Like, if you have a secret in your marriage, to me, that's not a sound marriage. Like, that shouldn't be something secretive. Now, I get it. You may not want to have to deal with what comes with the secret being out there, but it's better to, I guess for me, it's better to live in your truth than for you to, I'm living in my truth, but only up to this certain point. Like,
so what if he stole her money after that?
What do you mean?
So what if she did tell him, was forthcoming about it, and he just told her, no, you can't have a separate account, or he got access to it. Because now, let me say this: no one should be able to tell you to, but there are means and ways, especially when you're married, where people can get access to certain things. So what if he got access and he cleans her out?
Now the question is, why are you married in the first place? If all these scenarios are in your head or on the table for a future argument, then it was a bad start to the beginning.
I think with that particular Reddit thread that you and I both saw, like that was a lot of things that people were commenting. They were like the fact of how he was acting was like reaffirming like this was something that was probably bound to happen at some point. Like, but my thing is like there's been movies and plays and all this stuff like that where like somebody stumbles upon. So even if you want to step back into time and like people have actual cash like hidden around or whatever, because there was generations of folks of our people who didn't trust banks. But when you have those things, and like what if somebody, then you are forthcoming for the sake of transparency, and then they go in and they take the money or they clean you out, then what? This is, I think it also ties back to what you said about how like you can't have wealth.
I would prefer you to lie to me about having an additional. Tell me that you have a bank account on the side and have an additional account on the side, so I only see one reflection.
Oh, so have two. We got our joint account, the account I told you about, and the account I didn't tell you about.
Yeah, I'd rather that than just to know that you're stacking funds.
What did I say about in what aspect?
Like, if I had a bank account with money in it that you didn't know about.
I would be taken aback because it's like, what's the secret? Now, you were saving up the money because you wanted to surprise me or something like that, and I found out that's a little bit different. But if you just had your own separate account and you just saving up for a rainy day, to me, it just means like you don't even think that we're gonna make it type situation, or however you framed it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there should be any secrets.
Well, babe, I have nothing to tell you. I have an account, but I was saving up for you, not just fucking with you. All right. Well, I think that ultimately, like, there's no, and it's funny. Is like I thought this would be a little bit more volatile, but I'm glad that this is just kind of like a conversation around it, because like multiple things can be true. The need for the place for spousal and child support can be true, but then the abuse of it can also be true. You can have moments and times where people, feel like they have to kind of have their own little life preserver of money or stashed away, but then it's about whether or not how transparent you should be with your partner. And maybe that level of transparency you feel you can be with your partner indicates like how much you actually trust them, right? So there's definitely like layers and nuance to it. And I mean, pretty much all relationships are nothing but layers and nuance, because people are complicated, right? But I think that's all I have on the situation. Does anybody have anything else they want to like jump on or bring up so we can discuss it?
As far as like another topic, or just...
no, just like in the same vein of like relationships, support, finances.
I mean, listen, relationships is what you make it, and it takes work. We always say it's not a job, but it does take work, and every day you have to work on it. Kind of what Anthony said earlier, like the check-in. Like, you need to check in on your partner, but you also need to check in to see what you can improve on, what things they do like, what things they don't like, and that's okay to do. Like, I do think that sometimes people who get in relationships, and I feel like I'm guilty of it, I feel like you were guilty of it, you get so comfortable with somebody. Again, me and Dani's been together since 2004, 16 years. Like, we grew up with each other, so sometimes you get comfortable with that person and you think, I don't have to do this, or I can do this next week, and the next week turns into the next week, and the next week turns into next week. Like, you get into those rhythms where you're so comfortable and you're just like, well, they're here, so I don't have to work as hard. And it's like, no, you still have to work hard. Like, when they met you a certain way, and you can grow, but you still gotta be who you were for the most part. You know what I mean? Like, if they met you fly and now that you with them, you want to be a bum, you can't get mad that they are not attracted to that anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to put in work. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand or realize. And sometimes you got to take a step back, right? And I'm guilty of that because I had to take a step back. I thought Dani was the only problem, because I was the one voicing my concerns, but I thought Dani was the issue, and Dani was part of the issue, but TJ was also the issue. And I had to be able to reflect on that and say, TJ, what did you do wrong? And I had to change things about TJ so that way I can see, well, maybe if I change it this way, maybe she'll react different. And then now if she's reacting different, then maybe that's what the issue. But I also have to tell Dani, like, listen, we're going to have uncomfortable conversations. We're going to have conversations that may get heightened where I may be angry or whatever, but I'd rather have that conversation and we can move forward from that than us never having a conversation and I'm thinking everything is cool and it's not. And I think that's where the transparency and communication has to happen. Like, you're going to have days where you love your partner to death, and you're going to have days where you hate your partner. You're going to have days where nothing that they do is right, and you have days where everything they do is amazing. So, you know what I mean? But every day is going to be different. So you have to be able to work on it and understand and give people grace. You know what I mean? Like, if I barked on you about A and now something different, I may not bark on you about that again. Or, you know what I mean? Or if I told you to, or not told you to do something, I don't want people thinking that I'd be telling you to do stuff. But, you know, if I asked you to do something, you didn't do it, we had an argument about that, and I asked you to do something different later on, I can't hold you accountable for what happened when I asked you the first time. It's a different time. Like, every time it should be different. Every time, every issue should be a new issue. It shouldn't be the same issues or bringing in old issues to new problems.
Oh, you talking about like digging in the crates?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we call it.
Digging in the crates.
Yeah, because it's like you gotta sometimes have a statute of limitations on certain things. Because like certain things, like if you decided to just stay with the person, you gotta like let it die. Otherwise, like really kind of like to. And I don't want to say forgive or forget, but like forgive and agree to like move on. Because if you keep bringing it back up when certain things arise or you're triggered or whatever, either it means that you never really resolved it to begin with, or you're just trying to hold on to it because you want to use it as like a part of your arsenal. So we still make mistakes, both of us, but
Well, it's definitely growth.
but we try to be cognizant of that as we like when we engage with each other in arguments or disagreements or whatever, because like we argue, don't get me wrong, but we've had, I would say lately, more disagreements than arguments, if that makes sense.
A disagreement there was a form of miscommunication. Argument is we're at each other's throats, which is never good.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and then disagreements, like you can be like annoyed, but you're like, it's like, I'm going to move on past this. Like, yeah. I can count on, I honestly, I was saying to somebody the other day, I was like, I think I can count on like one hand, at least since we've been home with Corona, like on one hand, how many times we've had like arguments, like going for the jugular, and then like disagreements, of course, like throughout, but even then those are like pretty easily resolved, either because it's like it's not that deep, or an apology, or a resolution, like it was a miscommunication.
I picked up two things that y'all said that pointed out to me. One is benchmarks and one is triggers. Never place a benchmark on your partner that you can't reach yourself.
True.
Because sometimes people get comfortable in a relationship and then put that benchmark on somebody else to achieve. And it's kind of like, well, if you're not doing it, why are you going to set the benchmark for me? Sometimes you got to hit your benchmark before you can push somebody else's benchmark. And then triggers, like TJ was saying, sometimes in your spouse, it may trigger a feeling, a reaction, or emotion in you. But at the same time, you got to look at it and say, well, why am I reacting? What is it? Why am I feeling this way? And is it a me thing that I'm feeling this way? Or is it actually a her thing? Because a lot of times people will deflect in relationships to avoid doing the work or stepping up to that benchmark to make the relationship happy. So as long as you continue to allow triggers to go, then you'll never address what's really need to be fixed in a relationship with you personally.
Definitely, you always got to work on yourself. That's why I always am a proponent of therapy for everyone, because my therapist has definitely like sometimes held the mirror up to me and been like, Dani, like, you know, and what I love about her is she's like fair, but fair, basically. Like she'll be like, even in this one particular scenario, if I'm rattling down what happened between me and TJ on this particular 2-week frame, and I'm like, and he did this, and I said that, and this happened, and this is why I'm upset, and da-da-da-da. And then she'll be like, okay, here are the parts where, yeah, you, based on what you're telling me, yeah, you were right. Here are the parts where, like, think about it from his perspective, or what this might look and sound like, or whatever. And, like, you have to kind of, like, and then it'll be like, you have a decision to make. Are you going to accept it? Speak on it? What are you going to change? You're going to, like, you know, and so sometimes that's, like, and that's why I love it, because it's, like, I know that the advice that is being given to me is one that is, like, A, healthy, and B, is not like, I'm Team Dani because I know her, I don't know him, fuck him, da-da-da-da, is, you know, I'm her client. So at the end of the day, so even though it is very conversational, it's still a thing of, like, I'm hearing things, I'm noticing trends, so now I'm going to, like, speak to those things, like, you keep bringing this up, Dani, or this keeps to seem to be, like, a sore spot for you, like, why is that? And, like, where does TJ fall into that equation? Where does your mother, where does your family, where does your father's passing, where does all these things, like, fall into the equation? And like, you know, it's funny because I'm like, we're really far from what we were originally talking to. But point being is, like, why I'm such a big proponent of it is because even the person that you feel like you can tell all your secrets to, whomever that might be, there's that personal connection means that to some degree the insight or advice or feedback that you might get could be, like, a little bit skewed. And that's why I think that we all have people that we go to for certain things. Like, I'm going to confide in my sister for these things. I'm going to talk to my line sister for these things. I'm going to talk to TJ for these things. I'm going to talk to my mother for those things. And together, combine them all, I've got somebody to kind of cover all of my bases. But with my therapist, I can kind of run down all of them and not have to worry about there being some type of like backlash, pushback, feedback, you know, because even like looking at you two as brothers, right? Even if you two were to confide in each other about something or come to the other one for advice for something, there's history there. So even in the best case, the most well-intentioned advice and response is still going to be somewhat rooted in like your relationship with each other, just simply because you're brothers, you know? But that's all I have to say. Everybody go to therapy.
I go to TJ whenever I need an unbiased opinion because
he's an asshole.
No, I never go to friends that's going to validate my feelings. I always go to somebody to say, I'm not thinking straight right now. I need to talk to you about this. And that person I'm going to will give me another point of view. I never go to nobody that's going to champion my anger or my frustration, because that's normally where relationships really go bad, is getting bad advice.
But you also do need somebody to, and I'm not saying TJ doesn't do that, but I feel like you also still need someone to you don't need somebody who's just going to put the battery in your back or whatever when you're upset or you need somebody to talk to. And yes, TJ will give you very like an unbiased, very unfiltered, unbiased opinion oftentimes. But I think it's also important that that there's somebody in your life that you talk to that does like reaffirm like, you know what, you wasn't tripping. Or like, why does Anthony respond the way that he does to this? So not even necessarily like what it is that got you to that point that you're trying to get feedback on, but like, why is it that this is the way that you respond to it versus like the actual like incident itself? And I think that that's why it's like sometimes important, because like, you know, we know what our buttons are, we know what things trigger us, get under our skin, and we know how we respond to them. But then sometimes we like forget what in us and what happened to us that made us develop that response, because a lot of stuff is like, a lot of it is stuff from when we were kids or from certain key relationships and encounters that we've had over our lifetime that brings us to this point in our like adulthood where now this is the way that we go about responding or reacting to certain things. And right, wrong, indifferent, we've never really examined what brought us to that point. So I definitely think it's great that you have someone in TJ to talk to give you that unfiltered and unbiased opinion. But I'm always like going to be a proponent of like having somebody that, again, that has no dog in the fight, if that makes sense, because like some of TJ's opinions on certain things stem from things you've experienced and things from being your brother, you being his brother, that he is now like, I see what my brother went through, so this is why I feel this way about something. So where it may not come up in your conversations with each other, it does it did inform his outlook on something. So I hope that all makes sense. Babe, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing. Go to therapy, like my wife said. Yeah, I'm a proponent of it too. And go to therapy. Find the one that's going to be right for you. If not, speak to your friends who are going to be unbiased,
but supportive.
But supportive, because sometimes you got to make sure that, especially when you're talking about relationship stuff, you don't want to tell a friend something who's going to hold a grudge against your significant other. Because at the end of the day, if you stay with your significant other, it's going to put a strain in your relationship. So that's why you need to find someone who's going to be unbiased and who's going to tell you how it is, regardless. They're going to love you and they're going to give you the true, and that's what a true like friend should do. It's not about choosing sides. Right is right and wrong is wrong. So that's all I have.
Well, I think this was a very like healthy, informative, friendly, fun conversation.
Yeah, we got 2 million reasons why.
Listen, if you and I don't work out for some reason, don't come for my money.
And don't come for me.
I'm the breadwinner.
You are the breadwinner.
And me and my secret stash we'll be fine.
Be great.
Pew pew. All right, y'all.
Just gonna get some spousal support for like, a year.
I got 5 on it.
I gotta make sure that I'm able to live my lifestyle.
I know. Cause you're gonna go from.
That's so ridiculous.
But you're gonna move into an apartment, right?
What you mean? I'm gonna go to the old house.
You gonna put our tenants out?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, you ain't shit. All right. I'll
wait for the lease to be up. I'm gonna be fair.
Where you going in between time? In the meantime, in between
I'm
time,
going to the basement. The fuck?
nigga, I'm gonna lock you down there.
That's cool.
Like bubbles.
There's a way. There's a way in and way out. I'm good.
Exactly. I'll meet you in the kitchen. That's when we do our custody handoff.
Whatever.
All right, y'all. This has been yet another episode of Lovers Quarrel. As always, you know where you can find us. But before we do that...
Okay, yeah. See, I told y'all
Shut up.
she be forgetting because she took a week off, so she don't be remembering.
I didn't... So you recorded an episode by yourself that week.
Off.
Okay, then. Anthony, where can folks find you?
Because my wife wanted to take a week off.
On IG, it is Smalls be the name. My last name, SMALLS BEDA, name NAME.
I thought you were going to fuck up how to spell your name.
Oh my God. See, thank you, Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
And
appreciate you, bro.
you know that you can find us
you too.
On Twitter at Lovers Quarrel 7, on Instagram at Lovers Quarrel Show.
Right.
And you can always email us your questions, concerns, comments, headaches, heartaches at loversquarrelshow@gmail.com. Make sure that you like, share, tag, follow, subscribe, all of the things that you can do on social media and on the internets. And yeah, that is it for us. As always, I am your girl, Dani.
And I'm your guy, TJ.
And you know that we fuss.
We fight, but we love. Bye.
This episode should be sports themed.
You look like a sports themed.
You look like a whore.
And I'm glad I kept it running. I want y'all to see that this is Dani. This is the real Dani.
They hear me say this too, so it's
I
fine.
don't think I've heard you say that.
Okay.
I'm going to wholesomely end this episode.
Spell it.
She's being an asshole again. Bye.
Bing.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.